and I'll start with high-performing teams. We had a question from, and forgive me if I am mispronouncing anybody's names, Gawaya Haymore was wondering about how to go through brainstorming without judgment or evaluation. How do you manage that? Because that's a tricky thing to do to pull back that bias or immediate reaction.
Certainly is, especially when you have maybe members of the senior staff or your own boss as part of the brainstorming team. So that's a good point. If you're leading a brainstorming session, structuring who's going to be involved is really important consideration. Practical things that you want to avoid are putting someone in a position where they might be involved in brainstorming with someone immediately superior to them. That can cause a sense of not wanting to share as freely as you need them to in a brainstorming session, because the object of a brainstorming session is to allow ideas to flow as freely as they possibly can. And I would say as a facilitator, you even want to encourage the strange and weird to bubble up. I have an example where we used the sort of hybrid in-person brainstorming scenario with an extended experience for a executive level stakeholder who we were going along with the brainstorming. Things were getting moving really well. Very good ideas were coming up. It was very visual. We even had a remote team member contributing, sticking sticky notes on his screen as he was using the camera to join us. And then right in the middle, a very senior executive who was in charge of the project from a strategic standpoint, but hadn't really been down in so to say, the weeds in terms of making these lower level decisions or being involved in some of the more creative things, comes into the room and proudly announces, "I've got 3 great ideas," and starts writing down on the sticky note. And of course, everyone stops, so you lose a bit of the momentum. And he just puts his sticky notes on the wall on top of some of the work that we already have going on. And, the gut reaction, you can feel it in the room. I wouldn't say necessarily that it's judgment, but it certainly brings a halt to the kind of creative flow that's happening. And really, it's sad to say, but it kind of takes the fun out of the room. Because these should be really collaborative, fun, exciting experiences. And so he kind of drops that bomb and then leaves, and everyone kind of looking around. And the person who reported to him immediately is a product manager whose ultimate product we were trying to name. That was the purpose of the brainstorming. And she just looked deflated. And, I was facilitating, so I asked her, "Are you okay? Can we continue? Don't let that faze you. This is an inclusive process, so we have to be able to, allow everyone to come in and voice their ideas. There's a reason that he's not involved in the core of the meeting, because I didn't want you to feel uncomfortable because you report to him, but you do have to approach this with a spirit of inclusion, because if you just cut that off, then you're kind of being judgmental of his ideas, and we don't want that." And she kind of took her a moment, but we got back into the swing of things. And then after the meeting, the executive sees me in the hallway and says, "How do you like my ideas? I think those are the ones." And we have this maybe 60 to 100 Post-it notes on a wall, all with great ideas. We've categorized them. And during the meeting, we captured them. We captured what we were writing down into a Trello board. And Trello is a piece of software online that's intended for kind of cross-team collaboration. Literally just put Post-it notes into a browser and can categorize. So what I offered to him was, look, I'm going to share this tool with you. I've captured everything that we discussed in the brainstorming, and I'm going to share this. I'm going to give you access to it. And I kind of gave him a limited access, but I allowed him to go in and play around and move things around. And once he saw that all of the thought and the careful categorizing and all of the work that we had done, he kind of came to the realization that his 3 ideas should be considered on the whole. But what that ultimately did was provide him a means to feel included. And that's really at the core of what you want to achieve when you're conducting brainstorming. And that's also the way to avoid either judging or having participants feel judged. That was an example of finding a way to include someone who wasn't invited into the brainstorming, but allow their voice to be heard. But there are other ways that you can do that. And the best thing to do is to take the temperature of the interaction that you're having and make a decision on how to be inclusive in that way.